If you are currently, right now, able to play Spore via Origin, this does not apply to you. However, if you are looking to install Origin, you need to reinstall it, or you have a problem to update it, either method that will grant you the EA application, it is very possible that you cannot play Spore Galactic Adventures, which means you cannot mod it. Again, if you are currently able to do it, you are fine. But for those who are looking to do it in the near future, you're going to run into issues. The TLDR of the issue is that EA has now converted Origin into their brand new EA application, and it essentially Frankensteins Spore and Galactic Adventures together. For those who don't know, Galactic Adventures is a DLC pack that offers a lot of new assets, information, and overall game data, which those in the Spore Modding Community utilize to make their bigger, more complicated mods, such as Dark Injection. They cannot make these mods without Galactic Adventures, and they cannot use Galactic Adventures in the brand new EA application. As Sai here has explained it thoroughly, thank you so much, Sai, the EA app is essentially a heavily modified version of Origin without any severe issues in its own right, but where it does fail spectacularly is in its handling of Spore, and thinking about it, maybe some other older games as well. What it does, it identifies Galactic Adventures as an add-on of the exact same caliber as Creepy and Cute, but this is not accurate. Galactic Adventures is at its core an expansion pack, which in the days when those were mainstream and detached from DLC often required a separate, modified executable to run. In other words, a shortcut you physically use to run Spore. The issue here is, the EA application treats it like it's simply a content pack for the base game, meaning that, even if you're able to open it, the base game will now have GA content, but not the infrastructure for you to access and use it properly or reliably. And the Galactic Adventures executable itself is often rendered unusable by the app's attempts to repair it. It also haphazardly merges the data directories of the base game and GA games, which often leads to clutter and potentially some compatibility issues. Basically, it takes Spore and GA and Frankensteins them together without regard for whether it'll work properly, all because the ones who put the system in place were too detached from its development history to understand why this was a bad idea. Now, fortunately, there are some good news. The way the mod API launcher fixes this is by instead using a separate executable modified to be accommodating to API-reliant mods and completely ignores the EA app altogether. So there is a little bit of good news and bad news here, since as Sai has explained, macOS still uses the original Origin software because EA hasn't really made any indication to release the EA app onto the OS anytime soon. So if you're playing Spore Origin via macOS, you are totally safe. Whereas on Windows, and I presume others, they have released a thin version which doesn't work for current Spore. It's worth noting that if you can get your hands on the full version of Origin, it will still work for you, but thus comes the difficulty of the fact that redistributing a download falls into a very murky legal area, which is why it's not largely available, specifically here on Discord, due to the Discord community guidelines. As you can imagine, no one wants to get in trouble for this, nor to put their servers at risk. So unfortunately, if you're thinking about getting Spore, especially to mod it, Origin is just no longer an option. However, there is some definitive good news we can take away from this, and that is that Good Old Games currently is still the most preferred place to get Spore from, because it requires in general the least amount of hoops to be jumped through, it's easily the most reliable for any purpose, including online and modding, and it also goes for very cheap during sales, of which are very frequent. Now, once again, to quote Sai, it honestly would benefit people far more to bear with any problems and only seek an alternative when all else fails. And remember that Spore is notoriously glitchy, it crashes a lot, so if your only issue is crashing, you're fine. But if you physically cannot play an entire aspect of the game, or mods don't work, or you want online access, this is when you should then seek out an alternative. If you're not convinced, for a couple of extra reasons as to why Good Old Games is currently the preferred method, it is the best version for modding, due to no invasive DRM that stands to cause unpredictable issues with modding, and a fully offline installer, which means that once you own it, it is yours and you don't have to worry about the digital platform it's hosted on going kaput and making you unable to play it, such as Origin. As an aside, it's also proven far more reliable for providing CD keys for the purpose of getting online, or, if available, transferring to Origin if necessary. And by the way, none of us are sponsored or anything, it's just that Good Old Games is the best place to get Spore right now. Hence the name of the servers, Good Old Games, and Spore's a very old game, which is sadly getting outlived by its own hosting software such as Origin. So I hope this helps a few people. Once again, if you're currently experiencing Spore perfectly fine, don't change it, just keep going. But this is more for all the people who are looking to mod in the future. As always, if you have any questions, any concerns, need any help, the best place to ask and get help for Spore is the Spore Modding Discord community server. They are a great, wonderful bunch. They certainly help me with all of my issues whenever I get them, and I'd recommend just going over there because they actually, know the game and they'd like to help. So as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening, and a huge thank you to Sai and the rest of the modders for providing such a eloquent explanation and warning, and allowing me to read it out, always appreciated. And otherwise, I hope you all have fun playing Spore. Cheers and take care.